It's been a while since we've done a recommendation video, but because we've read so many good books so far this year, we wanted to make a video going over all of our current favorites and our top 10 books of 2024 so far.
So it's pretty much the end of April and I've read 36 books so far and about 16 of them have been 4-star reads.
Which is crazy.
That's pretty good.
For me, I've read about 30 books so far this year and 11 of them have been a 4-star or higher. So I think we're on a pretty good track because normally we give most books like 3 stars. So we've read some really good ones.
So of all of those books, we narrowed it down so that we could each talk about 5 today. And that was kind of hard for me, which is a good thing because I was having a hard time figuring out which ones I wasn't going to include today. So maybe we could do part 2 of this later on.
We have all of our books in front of us, so we're really excited to get started. But before we go over our top 10, we want to take a second to talk about today's sponsor, Rose Forever New York. You guys know we love their products. We have talked about them here on the channel before, but if you didn't already know, Rose Forever is a New York-based brand that designs luxurious rose boxes.
They use real natural roses and preserve them with natural oils so they last for a year. All the materials used to cover the boxes are vegan and cruelty-free.
Since Mother's Day is just around the corner, we decided to get our mom's roses, and I went with the 36 count in royal blue in the black marble box. And you guys, out of all of the bouquets that I've gotten previously, this one is my favorite. They are absolutely gorgeous. The blue and the other special colors are made through a natural process of pigmentation and they're allergen free. I can't wait to give these to my mom and see how long we can make them last.
I actually let my mom look on the website and pick out her favorite ones, and she picked the hydrangea ceramic bouquet that comes with hydrangeas and roses, and it is so beautiful. I'm obsessed with the ceramic. I think they're so pretty. They're like perfect for spring and getting into summer. She's already seen them and she's obsessed with them. Their website does currently have an entire Mother's Day section, and they have a bunch of different options of rose colors, box shapes, and different materials. So it's a perfect customizable gift for mom or anyone in your life.
If you guys are interested, we will leave all of the information in the description. They also hooked us up with a coupon code that's only available for the next 30 days. So use our code Loranda25 to get $25 off your purchase. Let us know if you guys end up ordering. Thank you so much, Rose Forever New York, for sponsoring today's video.
Okay, so now we're gonna get into the books. We have 10 total to talk about today, so let's get started. I do have one of my more recent reads, and it is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which is actually our Literal Besties Book Club book for this month. It's one of those books where after you finish, you just keep thinking about these people and how they're doing, and I just find myself thinking about them a lot. So that's how you know a book is really good. We did just do a whole reading vlog with this one, and that was so much fun. So in this one, we're following Justin and Emma, and they both have this kind of curse where every time they date someone, that person ends up finding the love of their life right after their relationship ends. So they try and get together and see if they can cross out this curse and then hopefully finds the love of their life right after. And I think that idea alone was so much fun. I wasn't expecting all of that family drama that also came in this story, but I think it really added to the plot and to my entertainment. Every time I read an Abby Jimenez book, I think, oh, this is my favorite Abby Jimenez book, but really, truly, I think this is my favorite Abby Jimenez book. I gave it a 4.75 just because I don't know why I can't ever give a book 5 stars, but I mean, I loved every second of reading this book, so definitely one of my favorites of this year.
Up first, I have The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This was actually my first 5-star read of 2024. This story takes place in a small town and we're following June. Her family is known for having a curse passed down. The whole town remembers how June's mother kind of went crazy and ended up disappearing and left June to be raised by her grandmother. But now June's grandma is starting to show signs of going mad as well, and June herself is starting to see and hear things that aren't really there. So June is determined to try and break this curse while also trying to solve the disappearance of her mother. So there's a lot going on in the story. It is magical realism and there's a lot of romance and mystery and twists. I thought this book was so good. I sat and read this in one sitting, and it's one of those books that you just immediately know is a 5-star before you even finish it. This is one of the rare times I think a book could be turned into a movie and I would love it the same amount as I loved the book. You guys know we love Adrienne Young. I highly recommend Adrienne Young's writing in general, but this book specifically I thought was incredible. Definitely read it if you haven't yet.
Okay, so the next one I have is one that I didn't really expect to be one of my favorites, but when I was looking back at the list, she just stood out to me, and it is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I know, a lot of us loved it, a lot of us hated it, and it's one of those where I just loved it, and I'm so glad because I really do like Ali Hazelwood, but I think I was kind of over the whole STEM thing. I know a lot of her romance books does have that STEM plot, and I think the last one I read, I was just kind of like, okay, I want something something different, and she provided something different. I'm so happy about that. So in this one, there's a vampire and a werewolf, and they kind of have this arranged marriage, and it's supposed to have the werewolves and vampires kind of come together. Let's stop fighting. You have one of ours and we have one of yours. And I loved the whole idea of that. But I also wasn't expecting that there was a little bit of a mystery in there, just because our vampire girl Misery is trying to find her best friend, and it's really the only reason why she even agreed to this alliance, because she thinks maybe the werewolves have something to do with it. But I just thought it was really fun. It was so fun seeing this vampire get thrown into this life with all these werewolves, and of course there's so much humor that comes with that. And I love how Allie Hazelwood really made it like a funny thing. But yeah, just another one I had a lot of fun with, and I want to see more in this world. But I think she's already said it's just gonna be this, and she's not gonna continue on with the series. But I do think she left a little something that could potentially lead to a second book, and I would be so here for it. I think I also gave this one 4.75.
So these are basically 2 5s.
These are basically my 5-star reads, yes.
So the next book I have was also a 5-star read for me, and it is Almond by Won Pyong Sun. This book changed my life, and I think is going to go down as one of my favorite books of all time. In this story, we're following a boy who has a brain condition that doesn't allow him to feel emotions the same way we do. So we're kind of just watching him try to navigate the world on his own. This is a very sad, devastating read, but it's also filled with so much hope and friendship and human connection. And anytime I think back on this book, I want to reread it. And you guys know we're not really people who reread books, but I think this is one that I see myself in the future reading a lot. I have been trying to read more literary fiction, and this book is why. Overall, just a brilliant book. I highly recommend, even if you're not trying to get into literary fiction. It's such a short read, and it's so worth it. Definitely one of my favorites of this year, and I think it will remain so even at the end of the year.
The next one I have is The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and I'm pretty late on this one. This book and the plot twists and the entertainment and just that like spooky feeling is perfect in everything that I look for in a mystery thriller. And I would say we're pretty tough on mystery thrillers. I think we can always kind of guess what's gonna happen, or it just seems like the plot is just kind of staying at this sort of same pace, and then at the end it gets crazy. But it felt like this one was just crazy the entire time. This is the one where we have Lenora, and everyone suspects that she has killed her entire family. They were all found dead, and she was the only one who remained living. And it's years later now. Lenora can no longer speak, and the only way that she can communicate is by typing through a typewriter. So she has this caregiver now who's trying to figure out what happened, and the only way that Lenora can communicate with her is through the typewriter. It was just a crazy experience. I recommend everybody go read this book. I'm sure you already have because it came out a while ago. All of his books have a crazy plot twist and super fun endings, but this one specifically just kept throwing me off. I was shocked multiple times. Definitely one of my favorites of the year.
So the next book I have sticks out among the rest just because it was so different, and that is Rouge by Mona Awad. This was a horror-tinted gothic fairy tale, and I think about this book all the time. The story is about a lonely woman whose mother just unexpectedly passed away, and it sends her down a dangerous path in search of youth and beauty. Mona Awad has definitely become one of my new favorite authors. Her way of writing is unlike anything else. I always explain it as kind of like a fever dream after I read her books, because a lot of the time you don't really know what's going on. You can't take things for face value. There's always so much more deeper things going on. There's so many metaphors and symbolism. I don't know how she does what she does, but it's brilliant every time. The story overall was just twisted and absurd, but it covered so much. They go over grief and trauma and the complexities of mother-daughter relationships and the negatives of the beauty industry. The list goes on and on. The story was very creepy and unsettling, but that's what made it so addictive. I gave it a 4.5, which is a perfect rating on my rating scale. And like I said, I think about this book all the time. If you haven't read this yet and you're in the mood for something just like really creepy and uncomfortable that has a really great message, I would highly recommend this book.
The next one I have is Caught Up by Liz Tomford. Liz Tomford, she just does it for me. Every time I read one of her books, I am super locked in. I'm in love with our characters. This one specifically, we're following Kai and Miller, and Kai is a professional baseball player, but he is also a single dad, and Miller is the daughter of Kai's coach, and Miller agrees to babysit Kai's son, and you know, there's this whole like found family that comes from it. I found that that trope specifically is one of my favorites, which is actually shocking because I don't really like kids in books. Liz Tomford is another one where every time I finish one of her books, I'm like, this one's my favorite. But I really do think that this one is my favorite. I'm so excited for the next book called Play Along. That one does come out in July, so I'm just gonna be patiently waiting all year for that one.
So the next book I have is a book that I've actually recently read, and it is Just Another Missing Person by Gillian McAllister. In this book, we're following a detective who is working on a missing persons case, but then she gets blackmailed into framing the murder on someone in order to protect her family. Something about this author's writing always has me hooked from start to finish. I loved watching this case unravel and actually learning what happened. The ending of this book was unexpected and satisfying, which I can't always say about mystery thrillers. This was overall just a really well-rounded mystery with an intriguing plot. I ended up giving it 4 stars, but I do think this is my favorite mystery thriller that I've read so far this year. I also really loved Wrong Place, Wrong Time by this author, so if you haven't read Gillian McAllister yet, I highly recommend. I definitely want to read more from her in the future. She just has a really interesting way of writing mysteries, and I think it's really refreshing.
The next one I have, the reviews are very split. Some people loved it, some people hated it, again, but I loved it, so I wanted to include it today, and it is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This one was just another one that I had a great time with. I escaped, I wasn't here, I was fully locked into this world. I felt like I was there with these people. So in this one, we're following Peyton, who is ordinary, and she pretends to be elite by posing as a psychic so that her true identity isn't exposed, but then she finds herself being thrown into these purging trials where she has to showcase her elite powers, which she does not have. I think the whole plot of that is so much fun, and I love Lauren Roberts. She is so cute. I follow her on TikTok, and just hearing her whole story of, you know, writing this when she was so young and it finally being this really big thing, I just love it, and I love to support her. And I think the story was great. I know a lot of people were kind of mad because it reminded them of a lot of different things, and I can agree with that, and I can see how people can think that, but I think because I haven't read a lot of fantasy books, I don't really have a lot to compare it to, so I think that's why I could kind of forget about all of that and just enjoy the overall story. If I read any type of fantasy, it has to have romance in it, and this one was definitely very hot, very cute. I loved it. I'm ready for that next book, and if it comes out this year, we'll see which one is on my top 10 at the end of the year.
So my last book for today is actually a nonfiction book, and it is Carmen Maria Machado's memoir, In the Dream House. This was the most brilliant piece of writing I've ever encountered. This is a memoir about her experience in a long-term abusive queer relationship, so do check trigger warnings if needed, but the way that she wrote this book is absolutely insane. She decided to separate all of the chapters and write them in a different writing style and in a different genre, yet it's all still telling one story, and I don't know how someone can come up with that and execute it so perfectly, but she was able to do it. It's just so unique and innovative and raw. The story itself is really sad but impactful. This is overall just a really crazy read, but it did leave its mark on me, so I had to include it today because it's unlike anything I've ever read. I highly recommend whether you like memoirs or not. This one just really blew me away, and I can't wait to read more by her.
Okay, so those are all of our top books of 2024 so far. I love that yours are all kind of a different little genre.
I know. I've read some good ones this year. I cannot wait to see what the rest of the year brings, but I think we're finally starting to find what kind of books and genres we like, and that's why we've been reading so many that we love.
We really enjoyed looking back on the year so far and just seeing which ones really stood out to us. Let us know if you end up doing the same, and let us know what your favorite reads of 2024 have been so far.
This was super fun to do. Let us know if you maybe want to see a part 2 in a couple months. Also, make sure to join our Literal Besties book club if you haven't already. We're about to start voting on what we're going to read in May, so make sure to join before we start voting. That link is in the description along with all of our social medias. That's pretty much it for today's video though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you guys next time.